Hello and welcome to the RealTime Fantasy Sports Show. I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer with RealTime Fantasy Sports, joined once again by Logan Glaser of RealTime Fantasy Sports. Logan, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Week 16.
Week 16, Logan, it's crunch time. We're in the playoffs in every league now. There's not leagues not in the playoffs, I don't think. And it's a crucial week of games, so it's definitely should be a lot of fun. It's Christmas as well on Monday. We have games all throughout the weekend. It seems like we have one Thursday, couple Saturday, some Sunday, and then some on Christmas Day too, which is new, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And we will also be running a super shootout on Monday.
Oh,
So we got 3 games on there. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And we also have a lot of NBA contests on Christmas Day as well, because that's a major NBA day. So get NBA and NFL on Christmas, but make sure to spend time with your family on those days, even though
yeah,
we got lots of games going on.
it's going to be tough. I'm definitely going to be watching the TV. I hate to say it. I'm in some crucial games in my playoff, so it's going to be hard. But it's normally an NBA day, it's Christmas, but they're kind of NFL's kind of invading. They can kind of do whatever they want now. I feel like because they're so popular.
Yes, they sure can. We got a couple of decent games on that Monday for Christmas, but could be some blowouts. But we also got a lot of star players playing on that day, so definitely will have impacts on playoffs.
For sure. And that super shootout, that's a very popular contest on the site. It's just $10, correct? And it
Yep, 10
once it
bucks. It
sells
sells
out,
out usually within a day or two after we get posted on that, so it should be coming up tomorrow morning with that, and probably sell out Thursday afternoonish.
yeah, it's on all your league homepages right now. So go to rtsports.com. You can check it out on there and get signed up. It's a fun contest. We have great payouts also. So don't forget to get involved. And on this video today, it's Tuesday, so it's time for our waiver wire ads. Logan and I will give you 3 of our favorite players that we like to add this week. Also a streaming defense, which is always a popular strategy. And some of these waiver wire ads, it's more of a deep dive, but I think the last few weeks it's kind of shown that some of these guys can help because there's been a lot of QBs I feel like that you've had to pick up and plug and play because guys have gotten hurt, like Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, but they've produced pretty well. I did it last week. I picked up Nick Mullins and started him in one of my leagues, and I won my playoff game with Nick Mullins as my starting quarterback. I thought I'd be saying that.
Who would have thought that?
Yeah. And I have another guy on my list this week that I think could help at QB as well. But some of these streaming options aren't bad. Browning as well with the Bengals. He's been picked up in more leagues, but he's been really good since he's taken over. So don't be scared to use him. You can win your leagues with these guys, I think.
It's wild how much impact injuries have. Who would have thought going into playoffs in like team build with that? Like you'd probably rather have Ty Chandler than Austin Eckler, um, which is just wild to say.
That's very true. And Ty Chandler is a huge pickup last week.
Yeah,
He
there's been
was,
several running backs that also did well. Zamir White had a great week on Thursday.
yep.
Ty Chandler, as we mentioned, Zeke Elliott's been doing good with Stevenson out. So a lot of pickups.
For sure. So let's get into these lists now, Logan. You give me your first guy you're looking to add this week.
Yeah, so it's a guy that you've talked about recently, and that's Davian Wix. I believe you mentioned him last week, but he's still only 9% owned. Last week he had 15 fantasy points with that, 6 receptions, 97 yards. He had 7 targets, and that, as you mentioned before, that Green Bay wide receiver core is just a little bit banged up. You got Christian Watson injured. Jaden Reed is questionable this week with the toe injury, did not practice and left that game early. So Dontavian Wicks has really been getting a lot of targets, and I think he's a great pickup this week. If you're in need for a desperate need for a flex play, I would feel comfortable plugging him in there. They got a good matchup against Carolina this weekend, and only 9% owned. So I think he's a good guy to take a risk on.
So my first pickup is actually a guy you just mentioned, Logan. That's Samir White. So he's still just owned in 25.3% of leagues. I'm not sure Josh Jacobs is going to play. What's the point at this point of the season for them? They're out of the playoff race. He's their star back. I don't think they're going to push him. He has a knee injury. It hasn't been told what he's going to do yet, but they're on a short week as well, I believe. So I think that White has a good chance to start again. And he looked well last week. Like you said, 17 carries, 69 yards. He had a touchdown, scored 17.5 fantasy points. I think he's worth a look for fantasy teams as long as Jacobs is out. Could be a good flex play for this week. All right, Logan, who's your next guy on your
Yeah,
list?
next one, he's kind of came out of nowhere, and that's Demarcus Robinson for the Rams. I'm surprised that he's getting as much looks as he has in that offense with Cooper Kupp as their one and Nakua as two, and Demarcus Robinson's getting targets at number 3 in their wide receiver core with that. But week 14, he had 10 targets for that Rams offense. He's had 3 straight games with a touchdown. Stafford has just been looking his way. Last 3 games, he's gone 15, 13, and 15, and only 4% owned. So he's available in 96% of leagues. And that's a guy that's gone 3 straight weeks with double-digit points. So definitely worth an add in leagues. I don't know if I'd feel comfortable starting him, but if Cooper Kupp or Nakua ever went down, or you need a flex play as mentioned, I'm fine.
Yeah,
bringing him
I think he's moved past Tutu Atwell in the depth chart. Atwell's had some big games, but he's not getting as much playing time as Robinson at this point, who's been steady option out of that slot. So he has
Yeah.
definitely emerged there. All right, Logan, my next guy on my list is QB. Kind of mentioned that I was going to talk about one on the show today, and it's Joe Flacco. He's 41.4% owned, so I think I have to start him in a huge semifinal game in one of my leagues. I had Justin Herbert, and my backup was Dobbs. So I went with Nick Mullins last week. I think I'm going Joe Flacco this week. He has 2
Yeah.
straight 300-yard games, multiple touchdowns, all 3 of the games he's played. He has 2 straight games with 23-plus fantasy points as well. He's getting it done on a weekly basis. I like his matchup again this week against the Texans. I think he'd be a good play again. So if you're looking for a streaming QB and you need somebody, I'm good with Flacco. He's getting it done. He's airing it out a lot as well. I think he's attempted at least 44 passes 3 straight games too. So he's
Yeah,
getting
that's wild. They just threw him in there and said, "Go throw the ball." Last week, I think he had 374 passing yards, which is crazy to think about. For Flacco's basically leading the league in passing yards in the last 3 weeks.
he's been better than Patrick Mahomes. He just gets thrown off the. He gets thrown in there, sitting on his couch, and now he's on a playoff contending team and throwing for 300 yards on a weekly basis. Kind of crazy. All right, Logan, who's your next guy?
Yeah, last one is going to be Hunter Henry, 49% owned, and Bailey Zappi is basically just targeting him every single time they get inside the 10-yard line. I mean, he's just glued to Hunter Henry inside that 10-yard line. So he has 3 touchdowns in his last 2 games, back-to-back 19 plus fantasy point games with that 7 receptions, 66 yards last week and a touchdown. So Zappi's definitely looking his way. He's got a great matchup this week against Denver. So I think they can find the end zone a couple more times. And as I mentioned, whenever they get in that red zone, he's just looking right towards Hunter Henry. And if he gets a touchdown and get a couple receptions as well, you're happy with that at your tight end spot.
For sure. I think Henry was my favorite pickup for the week because of the things you just mentioned. He's getting a ton of targets right now from Zappi, and I think it's going to continue. So I think he's a good play at tight end. My last pickup is Josh Palmer of the Chargers. He's 44.8% owned. I thought it might be higher, but he's still out there in more than half the leagues on our site. He returned from his knee injury last week, had a big game, hit the 100-yard mark, 4 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown. It was his second 100-yard game of the season. Keenan Allen is still banged up. They have all sorts of injuries at receiver. Palmer is going to get his chances in this passing game. I know it's not very exciting right now with Easton Stick as their starter, but he's out there in a lot of leagues. He's going to get looks. He's capable of the big games. So I think Palmer's a good pickup for fantasy teams. All right, Logan, our last issue to tackle is the streaming defense. So who do you like as a pickup for this week at defense?
Yeah, so for this weekend, I'm going to go with the Bengals defense. They get a rival game against Pittsburgh and a must-win game for both teams. Pittsburgh is just free-falling. I thought they had the playoffs locked up, but they blew games against the Cardinals. They blew games against the Patriots, and now they're just free-falling, and I don't think they're going to get in now with that. But Bengals defense is 46% owned, so they're a little bit more popular on the side of streaming defenses, but available in more than half of the leagues. But Steelers are making a change at QB, so it's announced that Mason Rudolph will be starting this week. So I love Bengals defense against that matchup. I think Steelers have just had such a struggle moving the football. Now they're on their 3rd string quarterback with that, and I don't expect them to get any better with that.
I don't think I ever remember a season with so many 3rd-string quarterbacks getting a chance to start. If you think about it,
There's so many. This season's been insane at that QB position. I feel like each year there's a different position that just gets hit hard with
Yeah.
injuries. In this year's quarterbacks for sure.
I don't quite understand why teams don't value the backup quarterback more. Having a good, solid backup, you can get a veteran guy. I mean, like Drew Lock last night.
Yeah, Drew Lock, Garner Minshew.
Before.
Minshew's a
Yeah,
perfect backup
exactly.
quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, he's getting them in the playoffs with an average team with the Colts, and they're right there.
I mean, the Jets could have signed Joe Flacco most likely when Aaron
Yeah,
Rodgers went down. They ignored that. Now he's leading them to the playoffs. Just I don't know. I don't get it. I guess I'm not an NFL GM, but I would value that position a little more if I was. All right, my streaming defense. I'm taking a page out of your book, Logan. I'm saying the Washington Commanders. They play the Jets, so that's the reason I'm picking them.
yeah,
Just talked about the Jets. I don't know who's going to start a QB. I don't know what happened to Zach Wilson last week. They said he suffered a concussion, but he wasn't in concussion protocol. I don't know what's going on there. It's a disaster. Either way, the Commanders, they scored 7 points last week in their game. They had 3 sacks in that game. They have at least 3 sacks, 8 games this season, 4 games with multiple fumble recoveries. So they have made some plays at times. Sure, they give up a lot of yards, a lot of points, but most formats, it's not going to hurt you too much. So if they get some interceptions, some sacks, I think they're going to help this week playing the Jets, who are just a mess right now. Commanders are just 16.5% owned also. All right, Logan, that's our waiver wire video for this week. Thanks, as always, for joining me. Really appreciate it.
of course. Thanks for having me on.
Good luck to everybody out there in all your games this week and navigating those waiver wires. Hope you have a great holiday as well. This has been Jeff Paur with RealTime Fantasy Sports. Have a great day.